Hello and welcome, everybody. I am Remo Yes Man, and today I want to talk about the Titan submersible disaster because, as I'm sure you've all heard by now, the Titan submersible has been found, or at least the wreckage has anyway, and the submersible has imploded. And unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be any survivors, of course. And the sad thing about all of this is it's quite literally another case of ignorance and hubris leading to the loss of lives. Now, the company that's in charge of the Titan, I believe their name is OceanGate, they are notorious for skirting around all kinds of safety regulations. And this is the unfortunate result of that. And listen, before we even go on talking about the Titan disaster, let me just stop and say this isn't a conspiracy because rich people do rich people stupid shit all the time. They go around rules and regulations. That's something that should be common knowledge if you live in America. The real conspiracy is at the same time all this is going on, there was another ship off the coast of Greece that had anywhere between 200 and 800 migrants that was sinking. And the response to that in terms of law enforcement was extremely slow. And as a result of that, we have anywhere between 2 to 800 dead migrants that are just gone, gonzo. And the argument a lot of people are making are, hey, look, we just don't care about migrants. And listen, why that may be true, I think the real culprit is the mainstream media not doing their due diligence in reporting on it. The mainstream media is so disgusting. They have sensationalized the Titan disaster, and one network even had a timer counting down to the amount of time they think it will be until the submersible runs out of oxygen. And YouTubers, I give YouTubers a pass for this clickbaiting bullshit for the simple fact that a lot of times YouTubers' news coverage is better than what you're getting on mainstream media. Now, if you know anything about this submersible, you know it was hilariously unsafe. Now, the Cliff Notes version is there was a company called OceanGate that made a mini submersible called the Titan. They do tours of the Titanic, and to be fair, they've been doing it for a minute now. But it was common knowledge that the thing was hilariously unsafe. So much so to the point where there were lawsuits over potential dangers posed to passengers in 2018. So at some point, OceanGate goes and hires a safety inspector, and the safety inspector does his job and inspects the submersible. And he comes to the conclusion that the thing is comically unsafe, especially at the depth they're taking it to. So to put everything in perspective, the Titanic lies around 12,500 feet below sea level. The world's deepest scuba dive reached 1,090 feet in 2022, while the world's tallest building would only go down to around 2,717 feet, still roughly 9,700 feet of reaching the Titanic wreckage. So after the potential dangers the submersible posed to its passengers were exposed to OceanGate, what did OceanGate do? They chose to ignore the safety inspector guy. And so the safety inspector guy, he decided to write a report on this. And on the day the report was released, the guy was fired and he was escorted out of the building by security. In response to criticism, the argument that OceanGate was making is, hey man, this thing is entirely experimental, and considering the fact that it is experimental, we're not subject to any of the rules and regulations that would be imposed by any governing body that has oversight over this type of thing. And we all see the unfortunate result of that. And look, this thing was so hilariously and comically unsafe that these guys were extremely open about it. And I'm gonna go ahead and let you hear from the horse's mouth how unsafe this thing really was.
experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
We only have one button, that's it. It should be like an elevator.
I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised.
We can use these off-the-shelf components.
I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Now, a lot of people are making light of the fact that this thing was being controlled with a Logitech gamepad, but the military also uses technology similar to that when it comes to piloting unmanned vehicles such as drones and stuff. And the reason they use controllers like this, or straight up Microsoft controllers in general, is for the simple fact that a lot of new recruits coming into the military nowadays have some form of gaming experience, and they're much more familiar with the ergonomics of a standard gaming controller as opposed to whatever the hell they used to use back in the day. So basically what I'm telling you is sometimes those kill streaks you call in, the helo pilot or the drone strike, are not too far-fetched of how the shit would be controlled in real life if you were piloting it unmanned. So before they even located these guys, they dropped a metal ball down to test out the pressure at that depth, and the metal ball imploded. A metal ball. So at this point, I'm sure you guys all know by now, the submersible has imploded and they have located the wreckage. And this is so sad, man. My heart goes out to these people. But the honest truth is, if you engage in any form of social media, I'm sure you're desensitized to all this by now. And at a very basic level, this is just another case of stupid rich people doing stupid rich people shit. And unfortunately, these guys fucked around and found out. Now, obviously, no rich people are gonna be watching some bum ass motherfucker like me on YouTube. But my only advice to people that do have an obscene amount of money is just to use your brain. Use your brain, man. Don't put yourself in a compromising situation. And if you have that much money, there's so many other things you could be doing with your time. Hell, you could build a VR Titanic replica with your money. Anything that won't put you in danger. But yeah, guys, this is pretty much where we're at. And unfortunately, it's just another prime example of ignorance and hubris costing lives. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening to me ramble on. I greatly appreciate it. My next video I have planned is going to be talking about the monetization of Destiny 2 at this point, because Bungie has just lost their fucking minds. And then on top of that, I want to talk about Rockstar Games monetization, because it seems as though they're taking some pages from Bungie's playbook. And then on top of that, I want to talk about Bungie actually stifling Naughty Dog's creativity. Anyway, guys, stay tuned if you like the content. I do have the attention span of a fucking husky, but if you enjoy the content, please just stay with me. The only thing I can say at this point, guys, is just to have a beautiful day. Thank you so much. Peace.